Welcome back. This is Dr. Alan Nasipany.
And this is Dr. Jenna Moragello. And today we want to talk about cravings and food. So if you've ever had maybe a craving or there's just this specific thing that you like to eat, maybe it's every week, every month, or a certain time, we're going to go into energetics of that. And so for me, as funny and ridiculous as this is, sometimes I really crave Ortega taco sauce specifically. And it's always at night, usually after a long day, but I'm just curious about the energetics of the food and the craving, if you can speak towards that, Alan.
Yeah, the first thing I would say is that first of all, that's very common. But the first answer would be when you feel that craving, before you respond to that craving, check your vibration. Like, how am I feeling? Am I feeling good? Is everything in the green, or are there a bunch of red lights going off or yellow lights going off? And if the answer is that you're in the green, that's going to be good for you. And you don't have to worry too much about your dosage, but we'll talk about dosage at the end of this. But if you notice there's a lot of red lights going off, like, ooh, I don't feel great now. Well, the rule is that just like with the law of attraction not being personal, that the dominant system is going to feed.
Mhm.
So if your liver's out of whack and you're craving lots of sugar, then or sour, then that's what's going to feed. But when you feed that beast, you're going to keep the imbalance going. And whereas, so if that's the case, like you notice, like, oh, I'm craving a lot of sugary foods and I don't feel real good right now, then what I would recommend, instead of avoiding that, is to take a battlefield dose of that. So like you're like, oh, I want this entire chocolate cake. Well, maybe you have like a little piece and eat that, like a tiniest morsel of that, and eat that as if that's the last piece on earth. And then that'll buy you a little bit of time so that you can find something else that is going to be better serve you. And it's usually opposite of whatever you're doing because you're trying to find balance. If you are craving something and your systems are green, everything's in go, like you feel good basically, and you're craving something, then you really just have to play with the dosage. And I always say with people, well, think about your favorite food. So, Jenna, what's your favorite food?
I would say right now, New York pizza.
New York pizza. Okay. And so everybody at home, think about their favorite food. And so some people might say ice cream, right? And so I might say, well, think about eating a tablespoon of ice cream. Yeah, well, think about eating a cup of ice cream. Think about eating a bowl of ice cream. I'll think about eating a whole gallon of ice cream. What you know is that there's a sweet spot in there. So, and if a gallon's good, well, what about 10 gallons? Right? That's the idea, is that there's going to be a sweet spot in there for you. For you, Jenna, with your pizza, think about one slice of that. Okay, think about 3 slices.
That's pretty good.
Think about like half a pie.
Ugh.
Right? So there's a dosage factor. And so what we realize from this is that the dominant system is going to feed. So if you're out of balance and you're craving something, then I would be hesitant by feeding too much of that, because it's going to feed the system that's out of balance, and that's going to keep growing. It's like, the child is throwing a tantrum. It's like giving them what they want all the time. But if you don't compromise a little bit, you're going to end up with a big problem on your hands. So generally, I like to say, well, whatever that is, maybe have a little bit of that and then see what you're missing, and try to go in the other direction. And then also playing with the dosages. And if you realize that, because sometimes what you'll find is that you could also have that example where everything's in the green. And my first Qigong class, I had this experience that it was like a 2-day class, and I'd never done qigong before, and I was in the grocery store afterwards, kind of dazed and confused after that experience, and uh, I had this craving for pickled herring. Like I was driving the cart. I mean, I was pushing the cart. I wasn't driving it, but I could have been. And I've always wanted to drive one of those. And the I went by the pickled herring, and I had no idea what it was, but it didn't sound good, right? It's like pickled in wine sauce fish, and so anyway, I bought them, and I bought not just one jar, but like 4 jars of that. And that night, I ate like the entire jar of pickled herring, and I felt so good, and that feeling just continued and continued and continued. What I didn't realize at that point is that when you're feeling good and you have a craving, that's the dominant system, right? So when you feed that, you're going to help get more of that. But if you're out of balance and you're craving something, that's the dominant system, and you're going to get more out of balance following whatever you're craving. The last part to remember is the dosage. That, while 1 tablespoon might not be enough, 1 gallon might be way too much. Do you have anything, Jenna?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say play with that, see how it feels. And remember, the key is if you're in balance, then feed it. If you feel like you're not in balance, battlefield dose. Subscribe, like, and share, and let us know what you think in the comments.